Hey everyone, welcome back. For those catching this episode the week it comes out, Monday was Memorial Day, and this is another opportunity to say a sincere thank you to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom and our safety. So with that, let's get into round 22 of the tactical transition tips. For the close range group, those of you who are looking at transition immediately to less than a year out, attend a job fair. And for the medium range group, those of you that are looking at 5 years-ish before your transition, start writing and get published. And for the long range group, those of you that have got some time left, maybe you're just starting your career, but you've got at least a decade more to go, embrace AI.
You transition out is try to model all of the good things, the discipline, the structure, that little bit of rigidity into your everyday life. And I think that that's a great way to make that transition happen, man.
Figuring out who you are, not what you did. It's not who you are. It's a piece, but it's not the whole you.
Take the time to invest in yourself because it means everything. You know? That's what the difference is. The difference is not just to collect a check. It's to live 25 years, 30, 40 years after you retire and pay it forward that way.
For the close range group, attend a job fair. You can find them rather easily. The Department of Labor has the American Job Centers, AJCs. So through the Department of Labor website, if you just do a Google search for American Job Centers, you'll get to it. You can simply Google job fairs in your geographic location. If you anticipate needing to move, you can also Google job fairs in that location because you'll find that they're distanced or spaced pretty far out. So you might have time to plan for a trip or if you can make it there. But it's something to consider if you're going to be relocating. Consider looking at the local VFWs or the American Legions. They're going to potentially have postings for job fairs that are coming up in their area. I would say don't just focus, though, on groups related to veterans or first responders. You want to go to as many job fairs as possible because you're transitioning more than likely into the civilian world, so you're going to need to go to civilian job fairs. So look at all aspects. You can also, along that same line, look at the local Rotary clubs, local Kiwanis clubs in the area, either where you're going to be living or where you're going to be moving to. Look into the city and county websites for those geographic locations. Again, expand your search, make your search very broad, but the easiest thing to do would probably be just Google job fairs in whatever geographic location you need to look at. The nice thing about job fairs is, from the most positive aspect, you have the potential for on-site interviews right there and then. Additionally, maybe there isn't interview opportunities, but there might be representatives from companies or HR personnel who could maybe review your resume. So utilize this as not just potentially looking for jobs, but utilize the people that you're going to interact with to get an evaluation of you and how marketable you are, how prepared you are to present yourself in a job interview. But like I said, from the extreme positive side of it, maybe attending a job fair gets you a job interview, especially if you're close enough to make your transition right away. The other thing you're going to be able to do is by getting into job fairs that are going to have jobs that you're interested in, you're going to learn more about those jobs. I think many of us, and maybe I'm overgeneralizing, we might have an idea of what we want to do, what we want to transition into, but we might not truly understand what those jobs are about or what those duties of those jobs are. So it gives you the opportunity to learn a little bit more. On the flip side, It may expose you to jobs you aren't considering or haven't considered because you just didn't know that you might be a fit for one of those. All of these things are positives that come out of going to a job fair. Granted, they may cost you some money. Travel time, there may be an admission fee, but think of this as an investment in yourself and an investment in your future. I'm not a tax guy, but you could talk to your tax preparer and see if by chance there's a way to write off job preparation or job search costs. I don't know, but it's some way to maybe offset the costs. But ultimately, if there are costs that are out of pocket, and assuming that they're not extremely prohibitive, then I would say invest in yourself. Put a little money out now so that you potentially find that right job for you, especially if your transition is immediate. If you're apprehensive, let's go all the way back to maybe you're just apprehensive about leaving this life. And I get it. These jobs embrace us in a way that it is hard to think about stepping away. Or if you're in that position where you're being forced to make your transition, I get the fact that there's apprehension to it. But the thing you got to understand is the more information you have about making your transition, the better it's going to alleviate the stress, the better it's going to alleviate the what ifs, the could be's, all of those questions that are rattling in your head. Get more information to help you. Get the experience talking to those people that you're going to be transitioning to. They are going to be representing the companies that you're going to need to get a job with. Get as much experience as you can talking to that group of people. You need to be in a position to be best informed, not only about what jobs you best qualify for, but also if there's a job you want, are you qualified enough for it? Because you could have the desire to go to a specific job and think that your resume is going to qualify you for it, but it's possible that maybe you're overselling your skills and experience. On the flip side, you might be underselling your skills and experience for a more prestigious or better job that maybe you're thinking, oh, I'm not qualified for it. So again, it's all about information. It's all about intelligence gathering to help alleviate any apprehensions you might have about making your transition. I would say, make sure you look professional. Don't go in there in your tank top and your shorts and your flip-flops like you just came from the beach. Look like somebody that a company would want to hire to represent their company. In turn, represent yourself the best way possible, because you never know who that person you talk to might also be talking to. So look professional. I would say also prepare some questions that you're going to ask a given representative about an industry or a job that you might be interested in. Don't simply just walk up to somebody and say, I'm so-and-so and I'd like a job doing X, and then have nothing to follow up with it. Plan out some questions that you're going to ask. Practice them ahead of time. You don't need to have a lot, but have 3 or 4, maybe 5, but enough that you could engage in a conversation that will allow you to gather as much information as possible from that person or from multiple people. For those of you that are in those positions, deployments, goofy shift schedules, whatever it is, I get it. If you cannot get to a job fair, whether it be time allotment, location, whatever it is, then also try online job boards. They're not going to be as informative, but at least it'll start pointing you in a direction that maybe you can then start trying to reach out to people from those companies that are posting those jobs. But again, keep working towards gathering as much information as you can for your transition so that you're best prepared for it. For the medium range group, start writing and get yourself published. And what I mean by this is we all have magazines that we like to read. websites that we tend to frequent, professional organizations that we feel affiliated with. Generally speaking, every one of those entities has some sort of written product, articles about a variety of topics. Reach out to these sites. Generally speaking, you're going to have to reach out to the editor. Ask if you can present a written project on a given topic. Maybe ask them if they've got a topic that, based on your skill set, could you produce a paper for them or an article for them? Or if you have a skill set or an interest or something that you're trying to establish your reputation and your expertise in that field, write an article about a topic within that. Site security, logistics, project management, whatever it is, find a topic that you feel fits into your skill set and write that article. When you go to the site, again, reach out to the editor in charge. Also, look at each of their sites because they're going to provide you with author guidelines for what they want in written product. But what you can do over these next 3 years, 5 years, is start getting your name established as an expert in a given field. You may not make any money from it. It may just be you're volunteering your time because you're going to have to take the time to write it. Obviously, put some effort into writing a well-crafted article because people are going to start recognizing you simply by your name and your written product. If you write well enough, if you start writing enough articles, there may be some money that you can make between now and when you make your transition. You might also want to consider writing topics or writing papers on topics that are just hobbies of yours. If you're into archery, if you're into surfing, if you're into cooking, whatever hobbies you have, find sites, find magazines that maybe will allow you to write, again, articles on a given subject related to a hobby that interests you. But ultimately, what you're going to be working towards is establishing you and your skill set in a field that you want to move into. If your interest is not to take a hobby of yours into your transition job, I'm not going to push you to do that. But if you have an interest in just writing, then take every opportunity that you can and get your name out there, because the more that you write, the more that you get published, the more that you run into the opportunity that you could actually potentially make some money from this. So start in a niche that relates to where you want to transition to. If you find that you really enjoy it, then expand out. And like I said, I would focus on things that you like as your hobbies. As a quick caveat, now that I'm thinking about it, there may even be civilian publications that are going to want to have information. What's immediately coming to mind is almost every civilian big business entity is probably considering how to address an active shooter, how to address employee relations. We all have experience with stuff like that. So think outside the box when you're looking at some civilian publications in what your skill set might bring to them. Just a thought. And again, if you reach out to the editor, that's something that you can arrange with them before you take the time to write a complete article. But if you have one that you've already written and you want to make some subtle changes to it, nothing says you can't submit it to the editor for their review and see where they go with it. Most importantly to remember, though, is before you start doing any of this, get permission from your organization that you're able to write to public-facing sources of media and representing you by your name, as opposed to writing under a pseudonym or some alias type deal. But I would highly recommend go to your organization, maybe midway point. If you find a site that you want to write for, contact the editor. They're giving you the green light to write. Then I would say go to your boss, go to your organization and say, hey, is it okay if I write an article on X, or do you want to review it before I submit it? But ultimately, get permission before you just do it. You don't need the backlash if something's going to come back on you negatively or is going to potentially come back on your organization. For the long range group, embrace AI, artificial intelligence. It might seem like, for those of you who aren't already dipping your feet in that pool, it might seem like a toy. It might seem like a novelty. My opinion, I don't see it going away. I see it continuing to evolve, and digging your heels in and fighting it and saying, oh, I'm not, that's just a passing fad. I think you might be shorting yourself. I would recommend you be riding the train with it. If the train happens to stop, then you just get off, as opposed to not getting on the train now and then the train's so far down the track you can't get back on. My 2 cents. Learn to use the tool not as a toy. Start thinking about everything that you do in your day, and are there ways that AI can help do your job and make you more efficient? I don't see it as AI is going to take away the need to have military personnel. I don't see AI as going to where it's going to replace first responders as in the sense of a person. What I can see AI doing or being utilized to do is to make certain jobs, mission planning, statistic keeping, all of the things that are processes that we do, making them more efficient to where there isn't the need to have as many bodies. So again, if you get on the train now and you start looking at it from an aspect of, how can I make this tool make me and make my organization better? Then you're at the forefront of it, and maybe you're at the position of, you're at the front of the train, and now you're more valuable than somebody who's lagging behind trying to jump onto the caboose. I know I just dated myself, but at the tail end of the train. So get on it now, start looking how you can utilize it, and think about how you can implement the tools to make you and your organization better. Find companies that are starting to implement tools that integrate with current systems. Immediately, what kind of comes to mind is from the first responder community, integrating with dispatch and all of the information that gets stored and transmitted on calls for service. There's got to be companies that are creating AI platforms that integrate with those. I'm not saying become your department's tech guy. Where I'm going with this is, maybe if you find a tool, you might reach out to a company and say, hey, I work for X agency. Is there a way that I might be able to be a beta tester for you? Now, where your agency is going to come in on that is, if it requires integration with your current systems, then you're going to have to get permission. Then you're going to have to get them on board. But who knows? Maybe your organization, if there's no money to them, might be willing to test something out if you simply bring it to the table. So be looking for those tools that are, and I would imagine they're constantly popping up, for new companies, new upstart companies that are trying to get a foothold in. And maybe your organization would be a good beta tester, or maybe simply you might be a beta tester. I would say that having the ability to tout the positives as opposed to trying to hold on to, oh, it's taken over the human. I don't see a reason or a benefit to hold on to that mentality. If you take anything from this, all I'm really pushing is embrace it. See how you can utilize it and make it work for you. I don't believe it's going anywhere. Grow with it, and maybe with your integration with it, maybe with your use of it, maybe with you become a beta tester, however you get your foot in with certain companies, maybe all of a sudden there's a job offer that comes your way because they want somebody who's been in the military or been a first responder to be on their board on how to improve the platform to be used by those groups, to be a representative of the company to those groups with finished products. You never know what might come just simply by cracking the door and seeing what's available to you. So in wrapping this up, close range group, attend a job fair. It's a great option for potentially fast tracking your next career. You get that opportunity to sit and get a quick interview, boom. It wasn't there, or it wasn't an opportunity if you didn't go to the job fair. For the medium range group, start writing and get published. Build your name and your reputation, which is then going to build future opportunities for you, whether it's something you want to do or something that you're not expecting to come from it. And for the long range group, embrace AI. Stay ahead of it. Don't get left behind. Thank you for taking the time to listen, watch, however you're ingesting this. I really appreciate it. Always, I need your help to grow this. So please share the podcast. Please like, follow, leave a rating, something. And I'm even going to throw out a challenge. I don't mean this the way it sounds, but we are often in a position where we like to express the negatives more than the positives. I'm throwing it out there to you. What am I doing wrong with these? Send me a message. Let me know what you feel I'm doing wrong. If you get to writing it and you find that you like more of what I'm doing than what I'm doing wrong, please let me know. And other than that, I'll catch you on the next one.